now we have the pleasure to have here Blerjana Bino, the co-founder and executive director of Center for Science and Innovation for Development. But first, let's start with something that went on in the previous session. Blerjana, you had a question, but I didn't catch the second part. You were talking about the acceleration of accession or acceleration of... What was your question and why did you ask it?
Thank you for having me here. The idea was that we see a paradox between the fast pace of acceleration into the European Union that is happening for Albania and Montenegro vis-à-vis the realities that we face every day in terms of democratic reform. So even though there is renewed EU commitment for enlargement and there is, at least in terms of declarations from political leaders that they want to be members of the EU, but in practice we do not see more democracy. So that's why I asked the panelists if they see the same risk, and it was good to hear from them that the EU is not giving up and compromising on the fundamentals, so the rule of law, the fight against anti-corruption, freedom of expression, media freedom, human rights, which are fundamentals for democratic processes. But on the same time, I think that this is not enough because the conditionality of the European Union needs to be stronger, particularly in terms when it comes to democracy, so as not to have a performative, formal check-the-box process of accession, but to focus on the substantive and meaningful reforms that will bring quality reforms for impacting the daily life of the citizens.
But does that put in danger the momentum of accession and create more fatigue in that sense?
No, I think that capitalizing on this momentum, it is very important to put pressure on the political leaders. It has to come not only from the EU, it has strong leverage and conditionality, but most importantly, it has to come from societies themselves. Civil society within Albania or the Western Balkans is very important, the media, but also the pressure from citizens as well, through voting, through protests, through different types of engagement and participation, because political leaders, this is specific for Albania, of having the same government in power for 12 years now in the fourth mandate. So having bottom-up pressure as well is very important for the democratic processes. The EU cannot do it alone. So the EU accession process and the conditionality can work so far, but it has definitely to be coupled with pressure, accountability, and requirements from transparency from our own institutional society in our own countries.
How do you see the role of civil society organizations in Albania? For example, in Kosovo, we had some pressure and we have some conditions for the independence from the EU, from international organizations. We didn't have institutions, so the role of civil society organizations was maybe bigger than in other countries, as we were sort of creating a state. While in Albania, from outside, it might seem, since institutions are there for longer, and that the civil society organization might have less leverage in asking for reforms.
I think the space for civil society is definitely shrinking in Albania, despite some civil society organization or actions groups that do a really good job. Generally, they face a really tough situation in terms of financial sustainability, human capital, but also the actual space of participating in decision making. Plus, we see some areas, particularly remote areas, outside of the big urban places, where there, you can say also, there is a desert of civil society organizations, so there is none. So this basically creates a disbalance between what we see in big cities like Tirana or Durrës vis-à-vis other places across the country. And it is very important to work and to support these grassroots initiatives and organizations, because they can mobilize citizens and groups at the local level. Definitely, despite the challenges, I think that there is still a lot for the civil society to do to exercise their watchdog function, but also their function as representing citizens vis-à-vis the government and public institutions. Despite all the challenges, if they are more proactive and engaged, there is still room for improvement, and I think we can learn a lot from civic actions in Kosovo as well.
On the other hand, in Kosovo, it was more driven from outside pressure, while Albania might be in a better situation when it's driven from grassroots levels, from the citizens, from the need, real need, it might work better.
That's our hope, also because the donors are slowly moving away from Albania as we move faster towards the European Union. So foreign donors considered as a stabilized, well-developed, consolidated country. So the support for the civil society in terms of financing will go away slowly. The changes in the U.S. administration this year with Trump and the new approach that they have to foreign aid, it has also made an impact across the region, but also for Albania. So now civil society has to become, in a sense, innovative to find new ways to support itself financially. And I think the best way to do it is to strengthen the link with the citizens and with the grassroots initiatives, because you also get the legitimacy from them, you get the inspiration, and also you get, let's say, you become more powerful vis-a-vis the decision makers when you have the support and the legitimacy from the grassroots and from the citizens.
Okay, Blerjana, we plan to discuss also science and innovation and stuff, but we were so much into this topic that we ran out of time, so thank you very much.
Thank you.